Yeah, it was, my self-esteem just took a battering because it got to the point where I knew I couldn't rely on the teachers. They would not intervene, they wouldn't say a thing. By this point, my mum had been up the school too many times to mention, contacted the school because of how unhappy I was. I'd walked out of classes for my own safety a number of times, or for my own mental health, because I just couldn't take it. I warned teachers that, if they weren't going to help me, I was leaving. They didn't listen, and I did. I would, as I said, a number of times I ended up just being at home, and my mum would be like, "Why are you here?" I'd turn up at home, late morning or, lunchtime sometimes, and I was like, I'm not going back. I can't do this anymore. I'm not going back. And where the JW thing comes in is, she would speak to, I guess, different ones in the congregation we were in to get advice about how she should handle the situation, because again, we'd never come from anything like this. We'd never experienced bullying on the level that I'd experienced it, and my mum genuinely thought the children would just let it go after a while. She didn't think 2-3 years in of us living there that they would still be almost on a daily basis relentlessly racially abusing me, religiously abusing me, whatever. She didn't think it was possible. She thought they'd grow out of it and get over it. They didn't get over it. They didn't grow out of it, and they didn't get over it. It just kept getting worse. And so she sought advice, because a number of times I asked her to take me out of that school particularly. But the advice given was, she's doing the right thing by sticking it out. Because like Jesus, she's receiving persecution for her faith, and she can have a good conscience that Jehovah's happy that she is doing the right thing. I'd never understood how to take that. Cognitively, I got what they were saying, because Christians are brought up to believe that if you're persecuted for the sake of Jesus, then you're doing something right, and it's to be expected, because disciples of Christ are going to suffer X, Y, Z. But as a kid, on an emotional level, I didn't understand it, and I couldn't. It hurt because the people that my mum was seeking advice from weren't black, so they couldn't, with their best of intentions, they couldn't understand that aspect of it. And even the religious aspects of it, nobody knows what you're going through unless they're in your shoes. At the end of the day, they can empathize, they can sympathize, but they will never really know what you're going through unless they're in your shoes. And for them to keep saying, she just needs to keep going, was so damaging and harmful, because I did keep going until I got to year 11, which is the final year of secondary. And I mentioned this briefly in one of my videos, but I couldn't take it anymore. And at that point, my mental health was bad to the extent that my mum had to take me to the doctors. Doctors were like, we're going to give her some medication to help her because she's not in a good way. And I'd go so far as to say that I would advise you to withdraw her from school effective immediately, because I don't know how she's going to cope if she continues going. That was and I remember the doctor saying that, and I was like, wow. And he said, I will write whatever is needed, whatever letter of recommendation is needed, and you need to give it to the school as soon as possible so that she can stay at home and recover from everything that she's been through. And that was such a godsend. It was so nice for a medical professional to recognize that and convey that to my mum, and it was able to trump, thankfully. Some witnesses it wouldn't, but my mum took it as, yeah, this trumps anything. If a doctor is saying my child's life is, or my child's mental health is in danger because of this situation, and she suffered enough for 5 years, yeah, I think I'm going to listen to the doctor. And I'm so glad she did. She did pull me out at the very beginning of my last year. I say very beginning, like a couple of months in, I had to, I was like, I'm done. And what was even more sad is that the two witnesses that were in my class at the time, who had been my friends for all that period of time and knew the things I was going through, because obviously I spoke to them every single day, I told them the things I was going through, they saw the things I was going through, they knew how tough things were, and they were doubly tough for me. They knew that. And when I told them that the doctor has said that I shouldn't be coming back to school because of how bad things are for me and how bad I'm feeling, and I'm now on, some medication to help me to, get back to feeling happy again, they dropped me because I wasn't coming back to school. They wanted nothing more to do with me and literally did not speak to me for maybe 2 or 3 years. Bearing in mind we were in the same congregation, but they stopped speaking to me. And that was tough because I needed help with, like, for instance, my mum had asked one of the girls who had still had a couple of classes with me, I think it was English or history. My mum had asked the girl that had one of the witnesses in my congregation and in my class who had still had a couple classes with me, she'd asked her to collect some work for me because I was still doing schoolwork, but I just was doing it from home. And my mum would take it in at the end of the week for it to be marked, and that's how I did it. But some assignments needed to be collected from school. My mum wasn't always able to do that, so she asked this particular ex-friend, because as I said, she didn't want to be my friend anymore, to collect some work for me, and if she wouldn't mind, when she's in class, just collecting, as she would collect her assignment, but also collect mine, and then bring it, either to the congregation meeting during the week, or my mum would collect it from her house. And she refused, to the point where one of my teachers said they actually found some of the assignments that they had been giving her to give to me, and she had been chucking them behind the bookshelf or something in class so that she didn't have to do it. That hurt tremendously, because we were all witnesses together, and I needed just a little bit of support from these people who I thought were my closest of friends for however many years. So not only was I recovering from my bullying situation at home, trying to keep up with my schoolwork, but I had lost the only 2 friends that I'd had throughout my school journey, because when I tell you, I literally had those 2 and 1 or 2 other friends who weren't witnesses, who, again, like, one of them to this day I still speak to, she's lovely. But in terms of who I was friends with and who I saw every day and spoke to every day, it was these 2 witness girls, these 2 Jehovah's Witness girls in my class, who had turned their back on me and dropped me. So I was not in a good way. I had not a friend in the world that I could talk to. It was tough. It was hard, and I think that's probably the very first time I had to learn to be my own best friend. And it was a good lesson in learning to, as young as I was, as I said, learning to enjoy my own company, learning to become my own best friend, rely on myself, and seek strength from within. It's bad enough being bullied, horrifically bullied, but then having the only people that you have got as friends also decide that they want nothing to do with you. Wow, I don't know what I can say. It was tough. I think what stand out to me as so damaging is the fact that like I said, my mum sought advice from those who were overseeing and supposed to be helping the congregation. The very fact that they didn't say to her, this is your decision, this is your child, you need to do what's best for you and your child, but felt that they could adequately advise what she should do and what she shouldn't do, again, just speaks to the level of control and the level of influence that these people have over their members. Because there's no way I should have stayed in that school for 5 years. There's no way. From 6 months in, really, I should have been transferred to a different school. I'm not saying that if I hadn't grown up a witness, I wouldn't still have been bullied. Of course, I'm not saying that, because there's a big possibility I still could have been bullied for my skin colour, because as I said, I got a double whammy. But the point is, once again, when you leave your life decisions, major decisions about your life that affect only you, when you leave those kind of decisions in the hands of people who, not saying they don't have your best interest at heart, but have a bigger agenda at play, it's just never going to turn out the best way. And that's my problem. Like I said, people's trust being abused, people's sincerity of just trying to do the right thing being abused because they're part of a high control religion who will take advantage of their trusting good nature. But yeah, so anybody that has been bullied, whether it's a child or as an adult, because as I grew up, came to see that bullies just grow up to be, little kid bullies grow up to just be adult bullies, experienced that. But I internalized a lot of that and made it something about me. I made it something that was wrong with me for years. Kelly affected me for years. Kelly's words, Kelly's actions, what she got people to do to me, how she humiliated me, how she made me hate myself, how I allowed her to affect me to the extent that I quite happily would have just out of existence and been fine. On a number of occasions I wanted to do that, but her, as when I say it stayed with me, like I said, it stayed with me for a long time, till my probably mid to late 20s, if I'm honest. I still couldn't talk about her without getting insanely angry and resentful, but mostly anger. I was still very angry with her for a very long time. And I remember when I first came across her page on social media as an adult, I just remember looking at her just thinking, you made my life hell. I hate you. And I'm laughing now because I now know and see it all for what it was. And the healing I've done, I've let go of that pain and resentment and that hatred I had for her, to the extent that if I did see her or come across her today, I wouldn't want to attack her the way that I had for many years after we left school and became adults. I wouldn't want to attack her. I wouldn't particularly do anything, to be honest. To be quite honest, it got to the stage I went from hatred, resentment, and like wanting to kill her. I'm just being honest. wanting to do some harm to her because of what she put me through. Went from that to, if I saw her, I would act like she never existed, and I could walk past her, and if she ever came up to me, I'd pretend, I'd act like, I don't know who you are. I never went to school with you, and I'd really just try and make her feel some type of way, try to humiliate her. I went from that to where I am today, where, as I said, if I saw her now, I'm just indifferent now. If she offered some kind of apology and it seemed sincere, I would definitely appreciate that, and I would, say thank you, thank you, because yeah, you were a bitch. You were an absolute evil human being to me as a child, and you really made me suffer. So thank you. Thank you for apologizing for that, because yeah, you did a number on me. Yeah, I don't feel anything for Kelly. Her social media still pops up sometimes on, as people you might know, or suggest friends of friends, and I'm like, she's still there. She's still doing her thing. She's still around, I guess. So I would always say, if this been the case that you've been subject to anything like this, and it's not something you feel that you can get over, or you still have resentment, or definitely deal with that. Definitely deal with that. You as the person who's the victim of the bully does not deserve to have to suffer and carry around bitterness and anger and pain and hatred for what somebody else has done when they're off living their life, enjoying themselves, and not thinking one thing about you. Anyway, so that was my that was my experience. If this is something that you're familiar with, or something you've gone through, or something someone that's going through that, share this video with them and let them know things get better. And parents, if your child tells you that they are suffering at school, and when I mean suffering, you can tell the signs. They're not eating, they're not sleeping, they're lose interest in all of the things that they're usually interested in, whatever the case might be. You know your child. Please don't make them suffer unnecessarily at school if there's something you can do to stop it. Please don't leave them for years in that environment. So that's today's video. A bit different, but not really, because as I said, this is a healing journey channel. It's not always just solely focused on XJW stuff at all. There's other things I've been through, and this is one of them. And this was when I was younger. I haven't even talked about stuff that happened when I was older. But yeah, that was significant when I was younger, and that's the journey I went through with that. If you like the content, guys, please like, comment and subscribe. Please share the video if you think it will be helpful for somebody. I upload, and I try to, at least. I'm going to actually start saying that. I try to upload every Wednesday and Sunday. Hope everyone's well, and until my next video, everyone take care, and I'll see you on my next one.